Hello everyone, it's Lisa from tocreateawebsite.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how I created my subscribe box on my blog. I've been getting a lot of questions about this, so it's time to do a video. Basically, creating a box like this requires a little bit of Photoshop or graphic knowledge and a bit of CSS. So what I'm going to do is just walk you through how I created this really quickly and show you what's all involved. So the first thing I did is I opened up Photoshop, or you could open up any image editor that you use, CorelDRAW, PaintShop Pro. I personally think Photoshop is the best, but maybe I'm a little biased. So what I did is I went over to my rectangular tool, my rounded rectangle tool, selected that. Oh, first we got to open up a new palette, right? And selected my rectangle tool, click and drag, release, gives me my little colored box. If I wanted to change it, I could come up here, change the color. But for now, that's fine. So I'm going to use my text tool, and I'm going to say subscribe. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Checkbox. I'm going to come over here to the move tool, move it down a little bit. That. And then at the bottom here, I think I had some text. It was black text, I think it was, right? Make the font a little bit smaller. And I said something like, I promise to never give away your email address. Why isn't it showing? Because over here on the right, I've got my layer at the bottom. So let's move this up. Ta-da, there it is. So I had something like that down at the bottom. And then over here, I think I had something like enter your email address, because I have that FeedBurner subscription box, right? That was a little bigger. Oh, wasn't that big. Okay, so I had that position like somewhere over here. What else did I have? Oh, I had this little guy right here. I subscribe to photos.com, so a lot of you guys are asking me where do I get my images from. That's where I get most of my images, and that's where I got him from. And so I went to photos.com, found him, dragged him into this graphic, and then it's kind of big, so we're going to take our rectangular marquee tool, and we're going to crop this bad boy, and we're going to go image, crop. So now I know this looks nothing and doesn't look nearly as cool as the one I have out there now. This looks kind of crappy actually, but I'm just trying to give you guys the idea. So you're going to come over here to File, Save for Web, save it as a GIF, optimize the size here, and then you're going to upload that image to the web, okay? Now, the next thing you're going to have to do, this is where the CSS comes in, because you're going to have to position these various elements on top of this graphic. So see how my FeedBurner counter is positioned right below the subscribe button? Remember, all of this, guys, is not part of the graphic. Let's view background image, and remember, this is all the graphic is. This FeedBurner counter, this subscription email form is all positioned over the graphic using CSS, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do now. So the next thing you want to do is you want to open up your blog style sheet. So if you're using WordPress, you're going to come over to Appearance, click Editor, and then over here on the right, you're going to open up your style sheet. If you're using Blogger, you'll have to go to your settings. I can't remember how Blogger works, but there's an area in your control panel where you can go and edit your CSS for your blog. That's where you'll have to go. So I'm using Thesis, and I love Thesis because I don't have to see all these files over here. You got your comments.php, your header.php, your sidebar.php. I don't have to touch any of those files anymore. All of my blog code is located in one file called customfunction.php. Everything. I love it. And all my style sheet code is located in the custom.css. And that's where we're going to be today. Okay, this is my style sheet for Thesis. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to set up an ID for your subscription box. Anytime you want to create a new section on your blog that's going to have positioning and everything, you're going to have to set up a new ID. So you can call it whatever you want. Just make sure that it starts with the hashtag. And as you can see, mine starts with the hashtag, and then I named it Subscription Box. You can call it whatever you want. Position relative. What does that mean? Anytime you're going to position something on top of another element, you have to make sure that that parent element is positioned relatively. So because we're going to be positioning things like the feed burner counter, the email subscription form, whatever, on top of this graphic, you have to make sure the graphic itself, or the section, or the parent, as they sometimes call it in CSS, has a relative position. So that's why I have this position relative. The margin top, that means there's 25 pixels. So there's 25 pixels between the top of, or the bottom of my navigation to the top of where the graphic starts. That's what this white space here, that's the 25 pixels. So if I wanted to increase that, then I would increase this number here. The width and the height of the area is just the same as the width and the height of the graphic. And then the background image is the graphic that I created. This is the path to that graphic that I just created in Photoshop. Okay? So that's what sets up this entire area, so you can start positioning things on top of it. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to position the feed burner counter exactly where we want it. Remember, it's like right below this subscribe text, so that's where I wanted to position it. So I created a brand new ID, and I called it feed burner count, and I gave it a position. So as you can see, it's positioned absolutely. Remember, the parent is relative. The thing you want to position has to be absolute. And then you just give it 2 coordinates. How many pixels over from the left? How many pixels over from the top? And I just had to guesstimate and change the values until I got it right. So this feed burner counter is 68 pixels from the top of the graphic and 157 pixels over from the left. Okay, so now let's position our feed burner email subscription box. I just created another ID. I called it hashtag email form. And again, I gave it a position, 124 pixels from the top, or excuse me, from the top, and 10 pixels over from the left. So 10 over from the left. See, that's that little space between the edge of the graphic and the start of the box. That's 10 pixels. And then 124 from the top of the graphic. That's how I positioned it. So once you have your positioning in place, you're ready to actually put the HTML or the PHP or the JavaScript, whatever the code is, to call up the actual function, to call up the feed burner counter, to call up the email subscription box. So now you need to open up the part of your blog where you can actually edit the code. If you're using WordPress, it may be, if you're putting this in your header, it might be your header.php file. If you're putting this in your sidebar, it may be your sidebar.php file. You have to find out where the actual code is for wherever you want to place this stuff, okay? So for me, I'm using Thesis. As I said, my entire blog is located in one file. I love it. So we're going to open up that file, and we're going to just place the code in. So you always start with div ID equals whatever you named it. Remember, we named it subscription box. Remember that? So anytime you start your CSS with a hashtag, it's always div ID in your actual HTML. So we called it div ID equals subscription box, and it closes way down here at the bottom. And all this stuff in between is simply the feed burner counter code and the email subscription code that was given to me by FeedBurner. So at the top, we've got, here's our FeedBurner counter. So remember, we start with div ID equals FeedBurner count because that's what we named it right here in our style sheet, remember? So this code in between the divs is simply the code that FeedBurner provided me. You know how when you have a FeedBurner account, you can log in and you can say, hey, I want to show my FeedBurner account, and they give you this code. So all I did was place this code inside my div ID equals FeedBurner count, and the browser knew to position it right here because in my style sheet, I told it exactly where to go. 157 pixels over from the left, 68 pixels over from the top. Same thing for the email subscription form. I start out with div ID equals email form. That came from this right here. I know this code looks scary, but I just got all of this code from FeedBurner. They give it to you. Anytime you offer an email subscription for your RSS feed, they give you the code to start collecting email addresses. I just pasted this code in between my div ID equals email form tags. It opens up here, closes down here, and here's my FeedBurner code in the middle. So I save this page, I save my style sheet, I upload both pages, and voila, you've got a graphic with elements positioned on top of it. And the great thing about this tutorial, guys, is you can use this to position anything. Even though I'm talking about a subscription box, you can use this to position all kinds of different things on your blog. Let's say, you see I've got this Google search box right here. Let's say if I had the space and I wanted to position this image somewhere up here in my header. What I would do is I would go to my style sheet and I would create a new ID. So we would call it, let's say hashtag, let's call it search box. Sorry, I've got my microphone positioned in a crazy place and I cannot type. And we're just going to give it a position. Absolute. I don't know what the coordinate would be. Let's just say it's 15, let's say 100 pixels from the top and 850 pixels over from the left. Oh, I was going to say something's not right. Got my code. And we're going to close that, right? So then we go back into our HTML file or wherever your code is stored for your blog. For many of you, it may be your header.php file. For me, it's like I said, I'm using Thesis, so all of my code is in one file. So let's pretend I found the header code. And you're just going to say div ID equals, what do we call it? Search box, right? And then this is where I'm going to paste the Google custom search code that Google provides me. It goes right here where I'm typing all this gibberish. And then you close it. Oops. And when I save this, save my style sheet, upload both files, the search box will appear exactly where I told it to. So as you can see, CSS is all about positioning. It's all about creating a style on your style sheet, giving it all the parameters and attributes, and then positioning it wherever you want it to go. My entire blog, if you're looking at the homepage of my blog here, everything here is positioned with CSS. I just have 2 columns here, and I've got everything positioned absolutely and relatively, or whatever's relevant for the specific section. This header up here, like this banner, I've got it positioned absolutely. So it's like 250 pixels over from the left and 35 pixels down from the top, or whatever the coordinates are. Everything in this header is positioned absolutely. You guys, once you learn CSS, you'll be like, why did it take me so long? There's so much you can do. It's much better than using tables. It's a more current way of designing your web page. Tables are slowly but surely becoming obsolete. But with CSS, you have so much more flexibility. And I would highly recommend you just get going and learn it. I mean, you can go to htmldog.com. I'm always promoting them. They're a really good site. They have a good beginner-friendly page that will help you learn a little bit about HTML and CSS. And then you just start playing around with it like I did. Use this tutorial that I've provided you here to practice and just start positioning elements around the page. And you'll see how much fun and how easy it really is once you understand the basics. It's changed my life, guys. I will never go back. I love CSS, and I encourage you to learn it. So that's how I created my subscribe box. Hopefully this has helped you guys out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.